Did you know that in the United States, only 25 states and DC mandate sex and HIV education, and of those, only 17 require that the material taught is medically accurate? Additionally, 39 states and DC require that information on abstinence is provided, with 29 of them requiring that abstinence is stressed. Yeah, maybe it's time to go back to sex education. In fact, that's exactly what we're going to be doing today in anticipation of the release of Season 4 of Netflix's series Sex Education. Granted, the television show shouldn't be used in place of a proper sexual health and well-being course, but it does unpack some important topics and breaks many stigmas, boundaries, and cultural taboos that other media have not dared to touch. The creators of the show have paid huge attention to detail, and as a result, the show has become incredibly popular, with its fourth and final season set to release on September 21st, 2023. In honor of this final season, today I'm going to focus on the best moments and details that you may have missed from the first 3 seasons. Proving they pay attention to detail, Sex Education even went on to hire an intimacy co-coordinator to ensure that actors were safe while filming intimate scenes, as well as to ensure that those scenes did not perpetuate harmful stereotypes as certain industries tend to do. The show has been heavily praised for this, and rightfully so, as it tries to create a more open and accepting culture. Misinformation and misconceptions surrounding these topics can lead to increased fear and stigma around sex and sexual health, as well as increased rates of STIs, STDs, and unplanned pregnancies. All in all, this is super important, and creating an environment where talking about our bodies and sex is comfortable and normal is vital to a healthy life. Additionally, the show touches on all of this while being uplifting and crazy comedic. Without any further ado, let's take a trip back to Sex Education. Starting with the production side of things. Sex Education released on January 11th, 2019 and was created by Laurie Nunn. It stars Asa Butterfield as Otis, Gillian Anderson as Otis's mother Jean, Ncuti Gatwa as Otis's best friend Eric, Emma Mackey as Maeve, Connor Swindells as Adam, Kadar Williams-Sterling as Jackson, Tanya Reynolds as Lily, Patricia Allison as Ola, Amy Lou Wood as Amy, and Mimi Keene as Ruby, among a few other reoccurring personalities. The series has an incredibly large cast and follows the lives of many different people, which I think helps to contribute to its relatability. Now, much of the show is shot in and around Wales in the Wye Valley. The scenes that take place at Moordale High are shot at the former University of South Wales. The Newport International Sports Village complex was used for the swimming pool scenes, and a Norwegian chalet-style house situated near Simmons Yacht Rock in the Wye Valley in Herefordshire was used for the external shots of Jean and Otis's house. And random side note, you can actually rent this chalet out, though the scenes that take place inside of the house are on a set. And a lot of the nature scenes were done in the Forest of Dean, which was also used as a key location in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, as author J.K. Rowling lived near the forest. The forest was also used in some scenes from Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Moving on to some details you may not know about the series, writer Laurie Nunn decided to use Sex Education to pay homage to some classic movies from the 80s. That's a big part of why much of the show gives off the vibes of that era, especially notable with the clothing and the way certain elements are shot. Nunn specifically intended for the show to be an homage to John Hughes' high school films of the 80s. Therefore, this show is a tribute to classic movies such as Pretty in Pink and The Breakfast Club, which specifically becomes clear in Season 2, Episode 7, where the girls have detention in the library and need to work together to go home. Speaking of those classic American high school movies, another way that Sex Education pays homage to those is by having Moordale Secondary have a very American feel. The use of lockers and American football jackets was done on purpose, since, they're not really found in English high schools. Another huge reason that the creators made this decision was so that the show became more relatable to international audiences. Now, something that many of us noticed, but are maybe a little confused by, is how Sex Education mixes the time periods in which the show is set. We see many of the teenagers with smartphones, and yet the television sets and household appliances in their home oddly date back to the 90s. In addition, the vehicles in the show are not modern, but mostly come from the 70s to 90s as well. We see quite a range, with the decor of the Groff's house being reminiscent of the 70s, Maeve's caravan being typical of the 90s to early 2000s, and the Milburn's house having more modern decor. This gives the show a slightly altered reality. Though it was done deliberately to give the show a timeless quality, the show's aesthetic also helps the show pay tribute to the teen hits from those time periods, as I mentioned earlier. Moving on, in an interview with IndieWire, Emma Mackey explained that they choreographed the intimacy scenes, and that this helped make them more practical, fun, and safe, so while filming, they would plan their actions in accordance with different beats of music. Also, the posters Adam makes when Madam goes missing in season 1 are a direct reference to Will Byers' missing posters in Stranger Things. While on the topic of dogs, Ruby's dog in season 3 is actor Mimi's actual dog, and she said she'd been trying to get her dog on the show since season 1. And taking a look at some of the looks in Sex Education, the outfit Eric Effiong wears in the school dance scene during season 1 was actually cut from traditional kente ganyen cloth. Taking a look at some bits about the actors in Sex Education, when Gillian Anderson first got the script for the show, she threw it in the trash before her boyfriend, Peter Morgan, convinced her to reconsider. Sex Education was also a first-time professional acting job for many main members of the cast, including Amy Lou Wood and Emma Mackey, who says she didn't even have headshots before auditioning. And to add one final little detail, Amy also originally auditioned for the role of Lily. Now, some of the best moments in Sex Education occur at the most unexpected times, as in life, I suppose, so let's take a look at 5 great moments in the first 3 seasons. After a nude photo of Ruby is leaked, we see Otis and Maeve set out to find whoever leaked it before they leak who it belongs to as well. They end up finding Olivia to be the culprit, but the school is called into an assembly to discuss the issue. During this assembly, students started to snicker and claim to know who the nude belonged to. It's absolutely gut-wrenching to Ruby, and in an act of unity, Olivia stands up, exclaiming, "It's my vagina!" and then triggers a wave of other students to stand up and show their support.
I understand what you are all trying to do. It is my vagina. Don't have a vagina.
Which brought attention to the idea that the objectification of women's bodies is far too normalized in our society.
It's my vagina.
In episode 7 of season 1, we see Eric prepare to go to the school dance. After being somewhat distant from his father throughout the season due to tensions around Eric's decision to dress more flamboyantly and true to himself, we get a really heartwarming moment between the two. When Eric enters the living room in bold makeup and a colorful ensemble and declares that he is going to the dance, his father tells him to wait. We expect something harsh, but instead get a simple "I'll drive you" from Eric's father. Though, when the two arrive at the school, Eric's father asks him if he is sure he wants to, quote, "go in like this," end quote. The two have a conversation in which Eric's father expresses his fear of what people will do to Eric because of how different he is. And Eric explains that his father's fear doesn't help him, but instead makes him feel weak, and that if someone wants to hurt him for who he is, then he'll be hurt no matter how he expresses himself. This causes Eric's father to mention that he is learning to be brave because of Eric, and the two hug before Eric enters the building. After becoming a victim of sexual assault on her bus ride to school, Amy shows tremendous strength by reporting the attack with the help of Maeve. But despite her strength, she is still deeply traumatized by the event and stops taking the bus altogether. During the Breakfast Club girls' detention episode, Amy tells the others how scarring the ordeal was and how she can no longer take the bus. This brings all of the girls together as they each have their own stories of abuse, harassment, and assault. And in the end of the episode, they all come together to support Amy and join her on the bus so that she can face it again. The scene was a beautiful, yet heart-wrenching moment of solidarity, as too many people watching can relate to how the girls feel. Now, Otis has had his ups and downs throughout the series, but one moment that stands out to place him in a good light is when he comes across head teacher Hope at the Women's Health Clinic. At this point, Hope had revealed herself to be incredibly prudish in her desperation to censor Mordell so that it could lose its X-rated reputation. But despite the horrid decisions she made as head teacher, Otis treats her with nothing but compassion in the clinic. Hope was there to start another round of IVF after struggling to become pregnant for years, and Otis helps her see that infertility doesn't mean she's a failure. Finally, Adam has come a long way from the good-for-nothing class clown and antagonist that he was at the start of the series, and we get an incredibly satisfying moment when Adam finally finds something that gives him an idea of what he wants to do with his life. This comes during the season 3 finale where Adam decides to enter his dog Madam into a competition. He's supported by his mom and Miss Sands, and it's heartwarming to see him realize his talents. While he didn't place in the competition, the judges gave him an honorable mention and encouraged him to keep at it. Now, before I wrap up, let's take a look at what we can expect from season 4. Firstly, the previous main characters are said to have less screen time. It was also mentioned that Otis, Maeve, Eric, and Jean will have less interaction due to story-related reasons. As for the story, we will likely see Jean, Otis, and Jakob while they navigate their new normal with baby Joy, Maeve's experience in the United States, and our other favorite characters' experiences at new schools. In an interview, Asa revealed a little bit about his character's situation, and it seems that Otis and Eric will try to be the cool kids at their new school, but experience a bit of a culture shock when they realize their new classmates are much more progressive than the kids at Moordale. According to the synopsis, the new season will also see Vivian come to terms with the new school's, quote, student-led, non-competitive approach, end quote. Jackson struggled to get over his breakup with Cal, Amy explore art A-level, Adam question whether mainstream education is for him, and Otis pining away after Maeve's move to the United States. Moving on to talk about the characters, as for those who are not returning, we have Ola, Lily, Olivia, and Miss Sands. And joining us this season will be Dan Levy as Mr. Malloy, who many assume is one of Maeve's new teachers based on promo images. And finally, Aisha, Abby, and Roman. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, please consider leaving a like or subscribe to support me. And if you have any thoughts on sex education or have a film you'd like me to take a look at next, let me know in the comments below. As always, remember to be good people, love others, and love yourselves. Peace.